So in the last session we discussed about the schema management. So today's topic is user management in Postgres. So in these concepts, right? So we are going to discuss about how to create a user, what is the difference between user and role, and how can we change the password, and how can we manage the users, and how can we alter the privileges, and what are the privileges that a database can have, what are the privileges that a schema can have, and what are the privileges that we can grant on the database objects. We are going to discuss about each and every topic in detail. So okay, so we are going to concentrate more on the privilege management, where we are going to see what kind of issues a user will get when he is lack of privileges, and what how to check the privileges for a particular database or schema or a table. And we are also going to check how can we grant a privileges to the particular user in the Postgres cluster. Okay, so to start with, how can we create a user, right? So before going with directly creating a user, I wanted to differentiate between user and role in Postgres. So this is where most of the Oracle DBAs, like will get confused. Okay, this is the concept where the Oracle DBAs mostly will get confused. Okay, so what is the difference between user and role? So technically there is no difference between user and role in Postgres. Technically there is no difference between user and role in Postgres. So but the only difference that we can find out between the user and role is, by default whenever you create any role, it comes with no login privilege. So by default, whenever you create any role, it comes with a no login privilege, but we can make the user to get login. Okay, to make the user to get login by assigning the login privilege. Okay, so by default what happens? By default whenever you create any role, it comes up with a no login privilege, but we can make the role to login by assigning a login privilege. How can we do that? That we will be discussing it in a while. Okay, so technically there is no difference between user and role. The only fundamental difference is, by default whenever you create any role, it will be not having a login privilege, but we can assign the role to login by assigning a we can make the role to login by assigning a login privilege into the Postgres cluster. Okay, now we are going to see how can we create a user. So how can we create a user, right? So we can create a user using create user statement. What is the syntax for creating a user? The syntax for creating a user is create user, username with password, whatever the password that you wanted to give. Okay, this is how you will create a user in Postgres. So create user, username with password admin123. So let me try to create one user. Okay, just me log into the system. 192.168. Now let me log into the system. So create user hurry with the password. See, I have created a role. So though you created a user, what is the statement that it is giving? Create role only. That is the reason why I told you, like, so there is no fundamental difference between user and role. So you use a create user statement, but the output is create role. So how can we create a role? Create role. Okay, create role edw underscore looker. So this is how you will create. So now how can we list the users or roles that are available in the Postgres cluster? /du is a command to list the list of users and roles that are available in the Postgres cluster. Okay, slash du is a command to list the scheme, list the users that are available in the Postgres cluster, and slash du plus will give you the detailed listing. Okay, slash du plus will give you the detailed listing. And what is the data dictionary related to this is pg underscore users and pg underscore roles. These two are the default data dictionaries which are used to provide the list of users that are available in the Postgres cluster. So how can we list the users? Slash du is used to list the users that are available in the Postgres cluster, and slash du plus will give you the detailed listing. Pg underscore users or pg underscore roles gives you the information about all the roles that are available in the Postgres cluster. So now we'll see. So what is the command? Slash du, right? Slash du is a command which gives you the information. If you see how I have created the user. 1 minute. So I have created a user using create user Hari. If you see Hari, it is having a login privilege. In the attribute, it is nothing is there, which means it has a login privilege. And I have created a role using edw role using create role statement. So edw underscore looker is not having a login privilege. And one more thing is like, so as discussed, pg underscore user is a data dictionary. Okay, pg underscore user is a data dictionary which contains the information about all the users and roles, right? There is a small catch here. So pg underscore users is a data dictionary which contains the users and roles who all are having login privilege, who all are having login privilege. So pg underscore user is a data dictionary which contains the users and role information who all are having a login privilege. If you see here, Hari, demo and Postgres users are having a login privilege. Now let me check slash d pg underscore users, sorry, slash d pg underscore user, select username from pg underscore user. If you see, do you see edw underscore looker role here? You don't see edw underscore looker role here because edw underscore looker is not having a login privilege. And the next statement that we are going to discuss is pg underscore roles. So pg underscore roles is a data dictionary which contains users and roles who all are having both login and no login privileges, who all are having both login and no login privileges. Okay, users and roles who all are having both login and no login privileges. Okay, so when you do like select, so let me describe the table. Pg underscore roles, select role name from pg underscore roles. If you see, it is having, see, demo user is there, Hari user is there, Postgres user is there, edw underscore looker is there. So these are all the default roles. Okay, so though Hari is having a login privilege, this entry is there in the pg underscore roles, and edw looker is not having a login privilege, but this entry is there. So pg underscore roles is a data dictionary which contains the users and roles who all are having both login and no login privileges, whereas pg underscore users is a data dictionary which contains information about the users who are having only login privilege. So what we are trying to do, so we are trying to create a user. So how we are trying to create a user, so how we are trying to create a user, we are trying to create a user using create user statement. So let's take to create user, let me, I wanted to create a user called admin, create user admin with password admin 123, right? So create user, username with password admin 123. This is how I created. So by default, whenever you create a user, right, so and you did not specify any other options rather than password, so it will be like, So there are other options that will become by default. So by default, what is the syntax for creating a user is create user username with a password and create db slash no create db. Okay, create db slash no create db and super user slash no super user and create role slash no create role. Okay, so this by default no will be taken. Okay, when you do not specify particular options while creating a user, so create user username simply if you give like with password admin, so the default option will be no create db, no super user and no create role. So these are the options that we will take. So let me try to create. Okay, so create user admin with. Okay, now select star from pg underscore user with where username equal to. See, so the username is admin, sysid is something, some value, use create db. So while creating user, did we mention any create db privilege? No. So that is the reason it is false. Use super user, whether the user is a super user or not, it is false. Use replication, whether the user is having a replication privilege or not, no. So that is mentioned as a false. And use password is like something which will be like encrypted. So what is this valid until class? And use config, so we have seen yesterday, use config is a parameter which contains the user level setting. So whenever you set any search path setting or work memory setting at a user level, so the use config column will be populated with the value that whatever we set for that user. So what does it mean by valid until? Valid until is a class which talks about till what time the password is valid. So in Oracle we have a similar concept like password max time, password reuse time, password max is kind of options are there, but password expiry time, expiry grace, those kind of options are there, and those will be implemented with the concept of profiling. Such similar thing is not there in Postgres. But and one more thing, the only option that we have to let the password expire in so and so date is val until class. So create user username with password val until, and you need to provide some date. The moment it reaches the date, the password will get expired. But in Postgres we don't make use of this option, because unlike Oracle, it is not going to, okay, unlike Oracle, it is not going to provide, okay, it is not going to provide the information, or it is not so whenever you are trying to log in into the Oracle and the password is get to expire, you will get a notification stating that the password will get expired in so and so date. But that kind of notification we don't get in Postgres. So sometimes, let's say I have an app user and I have used valid until class and I don't get any notification, right? Then what happens? So suddenly the account gets locked, and like the application might go down, because when the account is locked it might not be able to connect to the Postgres database. That causes the application to go down. That is the reason why we don't use these options. So let's say I have created a user called admin. So does admin have any privilege? So no. So if someone asks you like so and so user should have a create db privilege, then how you will do? Alter user admin with create db. As I said, when you do not specify any options while creating, like while creating a user, by default, no create DB, no replication, no super user, and no, and those will be taken, and valid until class will, like be, it will be an infinity. The password will never get expired. So now slash du admin. See, if you see, the user admin is having a create db privilege now. So how can we revoke that? If you want to revoke, alter user admin with no create db, with no create db, sorry, alter user admin with no create db. See, there is no create db. How can I make a particular user as a super user? Alter user admin with super user. So when you do like slash du admin, so this user becomes a super user. How can we revoke the super user privileges? Alter user admin with no super user slash du admin. Okay, this is how you can play with the privileges. So what are all the options that we will get when you create a role? That is like the similar options only you will get. So slash d pg underscore role, select star from pg underscore roles, where role name equal to edw underscore looker slash x. Let me give you the detail output in a more detailed manner. See, so EW underscore looker is a role. So role superuser, is that role is a superuser? No. Role create role. Does this user is having a privilege to create another user a role? No. Role creativity. Does this role is having a creative privilege? No. Role can log in. Does this role can log in? No. Role replication. Does this role is having a replication privilege? No. Role connection limit means how many connections simultaneously a role can establish. It is -1, which is infinity. Password is something encrypted, and role valid until class is infinity, and role config means which talks about the list of roles that are assigned, a list of options or settings that are assigned to a particular role. So this is how you can decode the thing. And what is the purpose of role then? In general, where do we use these roles, right? So let's say I have a database called edw. Okay, I have a database called edw, and someone asks me to create a schema called edw underscore app. Okay, so roles makes the privilege administration easy. What happens? Role makes the privilege administration easy. So like, so where do we use these roles particularly, right? So let's say I have a edw database, and someone asks me to create a schema edw underscore app. As a admin, I should have, okay, I should have something to manage the privilege in an efficient way. Okay, so and whenever I get a request for creating a schema edw underscore app, along with the schema, i am going to create I am going to create two roles, edw underscore app underscore looker and edw underscore app underscore updater. More about this you will be discussing during the tomorrow's class. Okay, so edw underscore app underscore looker and edw underscore app underscore updater, these two roles that I am going to provide, and I will grant all the select access on all the tables in schema edw underscore app to edw underscore app underscore looker role, and I will provide insert, update, delete, truncate access on all tables in schema edw underscore app to edw underscore app underscore updater. So how can we grant that? We will be discussing it in the tomorrow's class. But for now, so what is the purpose of role? Role makes the privilege administration easy. So let's say if someone asks you to have a read-only privilege on the edw underscore app schema, simply what we will do? We will grant this looker role to that user. How can we grant edw underscore app underscore looker to username. So whenever you grant any role to that user, so whatever the privileges that role is having, those privileges will be automatically flown to the user. So if the role looker is having a create database privilege, then when you log and you assign it to some user called admin, and you can log in as the admin user, and you can create the database as well, because the role is having a create db privilege, and the role is granted to a user. So the user is automatically gets the privileges whatever the role is having. So this is how you can use the roles to manage. Okay, so this is how we can manage the privileges are using roles. So and one more beautiful concept in Postgres is, so let's say I have a user and I have a role. Okay, what happened, right? You can grant sorry, you can grant a user to a role to a user to a user, and role to a role. We can grant anything to anyone. It's not like in Oracle or some other databases we can grant only role to a user, right? But in Postgres, that is the reason why during the beginning of the class I told you that there is no fundamental difference between user and role in Postgres. So we can grant anything to anyone. We can grant one user to another user. We can grant one role to another role. We can grant one role to another user, and we can grant a user to a user. So there is no such difference. So whenever you grant something to the other user, whatever the privileges that a granted role is having, those privileges will flow automatically to the user to whom you have granted the role or user. So this is how you will create user or role in Postgres. Is this clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Right? So now we are going to see how we are going to manage the privileges. Okay, so to simplify this topic, so we are going to divide all the privileges at a database level. So we are going to discuss about the database level privileges and schema level privileges and object level privileges. So these are what are so in the database level privileges we are going to see what are the privileges that we can provide to a user at the database level, and in the schema level privileges we are going to see what are all the privileges that we can grant to a user and the schema, and in the object level privileges we are going to see what are the privileges that we have for a table, what are the privileges that we have for a function, sequence, procedure, and like views and all those things. Okay, so we are going to see each and everything in detailed manner. So now let's start with the database level privileges. Okay, now let's start with the database level privileges. So in this we are going to see what are the privileges that we can provide to a user on the database. So to do this, just I'm going to open a one more session. Just I'm trying to change the color of this. Okay. Okay, admin 1 2 3. So now what I'm trying to do, right? So what are all the users that I have? Let me go and check here. What are the users that I have? I have demo user. I have a hurry user, right? Now let me log in as a hurry user. So PSQL hyphen U hurry hyphen D Postgres, right? Sorry, let me log into the browser. So PSQL hyphen U hurry hyphen D Postgres. Now let me try to create. So through which user I logged in? I logged in as a hurry user, right? Now let me try to create schema. So database contains what? Database contains schemas, right? Database contains what? Schemas. So create schema. Okay, hurry underscore app. Am I able to create? I'm not able to create the schema because the permission denied for user database Postgres. Okay, if user wants to create, any schema on the database, then user should have which privilege? create on database privilege. User should have which privilege? Create on database privilege. So it represented with capital C. What is capital C? In Postgres, each and every privilege will be assigned with some identifier, access identifier. Okay, so create on database. Okay, if user wants to create any schema on the database, then user should have which privilege? Create on database privilege, which is represented with capital C. So how can we check whether the user is having a create and database privilege or not? How can we check is right? /l plus is a command to list the privileges at a database level. So for which database we are trying to check? We are trying to check for the Postgres database. Okay, do you see any privileges here? No. So now what I'll do? Grant create on database. On which database? Postgres. Hurry. Okay, now if you do like /l plus Postgres, see the user Hari is granted with the create and database privilege. Let's forget about this notation and all. We will be discussing it in a while. What about this? What about this notation and how can we decode this? So now in the another session, let me try to create a schema. Create schema. See, create schema is done. So who created? Hari user created. How he would be able to create? He was not able to create because he is lacking the create and database privilege. But after assigning the privilege to the user, he was able to create the schema. And one more point is, okay, so in Postgres, there is a invisible role called public. Okay, there is a invisible role called public. Public is an invisible role in Postgres where by default whenever you create any database, connect on database privilege and temp on database privilege will be automatically assigned to this public invisible role. So what is the public invisible role? Public invisible role is a role in Postgres and it is assigned with connect on database and temp on database privileges, and whatever the privileges that we have assigned to public, it will be affected to the all the users that are available in the Postgres cluster. Okay, whenever you assign any role, okay, whenever you assign any role to a invisible any privilege to a invisible public role, then it will be applicable to all the users that are available in the Postgres cluster. Okay, now what I'll do, right, I'll try to revoke the privileges. Okay, how can we revoke? If you want to grant, you can grant. If you want to revoke, you can revoke. Revoke means taking back the privileges. Okay, revoke connect on database. Let me check what are the databases that we have first. So we have a DMS database, right? So /l plus DMS. Okay, so revoke connect on database. Revoke connect on database DMS from public. Public is a invisible role. If you see /l plus DMS, see, if you see before equal to, if you see this notation before equal to, on the left hand side if you see nothing, which means it is a invisible role. Okay, so I have removed the connect. Now let from in the another session, let me try to connect to the DMS database. Now am I able to connect? I'm not able to connect. See, what is the error that you are saying? User doesn't have a connect on privilege. So now how can I grant? Whenever user get this require, whenever user gets this error, you can grant the connect on database privilege. How can we connect? Grant connect on database DMS to Hari. Okay, so what is the next privilege that we can provide to a user on the database level? One is a create on database, second one is a connect on database. Connect on database is represented with small c. So create on database is represented with capital C and connect on database is represented with small c, and there is a one more privilege which is like temp on database. What is temp on database is represented with capital T. What is temp on database talks about? Temp on database talks about So if the user is having a temp on database privilege, okay, if the user is having a temp on database privilege, then user will be able to create some temporary tables. So how can we check? So when you do like slash l plus dms, so equal to capital T by Postgres, and a temp on database privilege is already assigned to a public invisible role. When you assign something to a public invisible role, it will be granted automatically to the all the users that are available in the Postgres cluster. So now let me try to create. Okay, now let me try to create a temporary table. How can it create temp table empty one n space numeric? So it got created. So let me, what I'll do, right? I'll revoke this temp on privilege from the public role. Okay, revoke temp on database DMS from public. Now I revoke it from the public privilege, public role. Now let me try to create. Let me take this. See, permission denied. Why? Why permission denied? Because there is no temporary privilege is assigned to the hurry user. So now let's check slash l plus dms. If you see, the hurry user is having volume which privilege? Connect on database privilege. Sorry, slash l plus, yeah, only connect on database privilege. So now let me grant create on database DMS to hurry. Grant temp on database DMS to hurry. When you do like slash l plus DMS, see, the hurry user is having connect on database, create on database, and temp on database. So how can we read this? Okay, how can we read this, right? So let me explain this. So here the notation that you can, that how you have to read is grantee equal to privileges by, grantee equal to what? Privileges by grantor. So if you see here, let me take a snip of this. So grantee equal to privileges by grantor. So he is the grantee. So these are the privileges. He is the grantor. Through, so what does it mean by grantee? Grantee is a person to whom we have granted the privileges. Okay, grantee is a person to whom we have granted the privileges. Privilege is a privilege only. Grantor equal to the person who has granted. Through Postgres user, how we need to read this is through Postgres user we have granted create on database, temp on database, and connect on database to hurry user. Okay, so we have provided the details individually. How can we do it and all the privileges in a single time? So grant all on database. Okay, grant all on database DMS to admin user. So I am providing all the privileges. What does it mean by all the privileges? All the privileges means create on database, connect on database, and temp on database. Now if you do like slash l plus dms, so Postgres user has granted create on database and temp on database and connect on database to admin user. So this is how you need to decode this statement. So how we are going to get that? How can we get the database level privileges? We can get the database level privilege by running a command called slash l plus space dms. Otherwise, we have a data dictionary called pg underscore database. So pg underscore database is a data dictionary which contains the information about the list of databases that are available in the Postgres cluster. From this, okay, select dat name comma dat acl from pg underscore database. Okay, so if you see whatever the output that you got here, the same output you will get from the pg underscore database also. For the dms, okay, hurry user is granted with connect on database, temp on database, and create a database and admin user is granted with the same privileges. So we can provide the privileges individually, or we can provide the privilege in a single shot using grant all on database. That's how you need to decode this statement. Any doubts so far? You understood this notation, right? This is very important to rule out the privileges issues in real time. I'll take the silence as an S. So with this, just I'm stopping the session for today. In the tomorrow's class, we are going to discuss about what are the various privileges that we can provide at a schema level, and what are the various privileges that we can grant to a user at a object level, like a table level or procedure or function or sequences. So that's it for today, and we'll connect tomorrow again. If you have any doubt, just let me know. If not, just like I'll wind up the session for today and I'll send you the both the recordings, today's and yesterday's as well. Okay, thank you.
You take a holiday on tomorrow as occasion of
Yeah, sorry,
Mahashivratri.
I was about to tell you that. So as on the occasion of Mahashivratri, there will be no class for tomorrow. Okay, we'll meet again on Thursday. Okay, thank you. Thanks for remembering me. I mean, Pratik.